Hey guys, so I was cleaning out a sweet potato bed and I found one of my favorite pairs of bonsai scissors, and they are in rough shape. As you can see, I'll give you a close-up right here, but they were probably in that raised bed for 2 years, slowly rusting away, and so now they are in terrible shape. So what I started thinking is, what is the best way to remove rust and what is the most effective way? So I've purchased 14 different products, and I'm going to try 14 methods to see which works best. I'm not going to do it with the bonsai scissors first. I'm going to test some other rusty metal I have around the warehouse and the shop and see which one works best, and then I'll try it on my bonsai scissors, because this is the only pair I have that was made and imported from Japan. So let's get started, and I'll give you a close-up real quick on how bad these scissors really are. So guys, this is a close-up of the scissors that I found in the garden, and they really are in rough shape. I can't even make them move, so I'm going to do some testing on different rust removing materials, and once I've determined which one works absolute best, that's the one I'm going to use on my prized bonsai shears. So let's get started. Now, one quick tip if you're planning on doing this yourself is make sure you're wearing a good pair of chemical gloves and something in case there's splashback, because there's a lot of acids in most of these and you don't want that in your eyes. Also, a good respirator face mask. You don't want to do this in a confined area. So I'm keeping a little bit of air circulation in here in the greenhouse, so I don't have to worry about any buildup of any acids or any chemical reactions. But basically, I'm just using each product, not mixing it with another, but just using it straight out of its container, and I'm carefully reading the directions on each one of those. Now, the first test, I'm using CLR, a very common calcium lime and rust remover, but we're going to be using these old rusty springs right here that I had around the shop. And I'm going to fill this about halfway full, so each one you'll be able to see the top half continuing to be rusty, and the bottom half we'll see what the results are for that. So like I said, we're only filling about halfway full, and I'm going to carefully pour that with no splashback. All right, and I'm going to place it halfway into the jar. I may need to add a little bit more because it's not quite to the halfway point, so I'm going to be very careful not to get it on the actual spring. And that way, when we remove it, we'll have a pretty fair test below the line level of the liquid and above what should remain rusty. And there could be a little bit of overlap there, but I think we'll be able to see the results from there. So we'll be able to do a lineup. First one is CLR. Now, after about 1 minute, I just want to show you what's happening, the chemical reaction that's going on inside of the glass. And this right here shows me that it's probably going to work quite well, at least I'm hoping. But again, calcium lime rust product, the CLR, is pretty common and everybody has seen the advertisements on TV. So this is one thing that I'm trying first. I've labeled it so we can move on to the second. Okay, the second one is Oil Eater Overnight Rust Remover. Now this is going to be about a 12-hour test, so I'm not going to do a 24-hour test. I want to do a 12-hour test first and see how well it removes just overnight. So we'll do a exact 12-hour test, see how that works. Okay, we're going to set our second spring in the liquid, and again, we're not quite as high as I'd like it to be. I'm wanting it to cover about half of the spring, so I'll have to remember to do this. I'm trying my best not to get it anywhere on the spring, on the rust. We're wanting to see what the result is. And we'll move on, we'll label this and put it next to our another example. Okay, the next is just pure orange juice, not from concentrate, not a juice mix. Now next is 75% vinegar, and this is much stronger than what you're going to find in a kitchen product. I'm going to use that as well, but I just wanted to test 75%. I did see 99% available online. I can put a link to that, but it's quite a bit more expensive. This wasn't too bad, but when you talk about getting close to 99%, the concentration causes the price to go way up. Now, the 4 products we've tried so far, I just wanted to say that the CLR really seems to be having a chemical reaction. Oil Eater, not so much. OJ, I don't see any fizzing or bubbling. A little bit, but not a lot. And the 75% vinegar, I'm seeing the same reaction on that as the CLR. So there seems to be quite a chemical reaction on those 2 products. Now next, I'm using 100% lemon juice. And so we're going to open this, fill our container. Now, Evapo-Rust is a very popular product for rust removal, and it claims that it removes rust down to bare metal, and it also claims there's no scrubbing and it's reusable, and it's just an easy soak method, which is the method we're using. Now I wanted to interrupt our test for just a sec and show you what the 75% vinegar is doing. It is incredible how much fizzing and how much chemical reaction is going on. So as you can see right there, the 75% vinegar is doing an amazing job so far. So hopefully it will continue to do this and it will get all the way down to the bare metal and make it look great. I can only imagine what 99% vinegar would do. Now I did a search online to see which soda had the most acidic nature to it, and it turned out it is Pepsi, but I'm doing Coke as well, so we're doing Coke and Pepsi. So we're going to do the same thing with good old Pepsi. Now next I'm using just common kitchen vinegar. This particular brand is the Walmart brand, and it's about, it says it's diluted to 5% with water, so it is a 5% concentration, much less than our 75%. Now next I wanted to try common apple cider vinegar. A lot of people who are health conscious take this, and I wanted to see if there was a different type of reaction with this because there's a few extra added ingredients. Also, this is 5%, same as the kitchen vinegar, so we're going to do the same thing. Now next we're using citric acid. It's pure citric acid. And I'm going to use 4 tablespoons. It's a little bit clumpy in there. Now I wanted to give you up close of these today because this water tomorrow may be very murky and hard to see, and so you can see there is a chemical reaction taking place with the citric acid, and it's definitely hopefully going to work as well as I think it will. But citric acid is just one of those common things that many people have in their kitchen. So this next product surprisingly was the most expensive, WD-40 in this gallon size. If I could have found it in a smaller size, I would have bought it, but this was the only size I could find is 1 gallon, so it was quite expensive. I'll put the link in the description to each one of these products, but I'm curious to see if this works because based on the price, I would hope it works a lot better to match the price that it came with. All right, the next product we're using is just regular Coca-Cola, and I'm going to do a bartender's trick and turn it sideways. So hopefully we don't get a lot of fizz because it has been sitting in the greenhouse and it is quite hot. And if you've ever opened a hot beer that's been shaken even a small amount, you'll know what happens. So we're almost to the point where we can do our dunk here. There we go. And let's see what happens. I'm sure it's going to fizz over as the Pepsi did as well. Now next is Rust-Oleum, and this has a spray pump type on the top, and it says that it is a gel formula, so maybe a little bit thicker. I've never used this before. When I think of Rust-Oleum, I think of canned spray paint, and so we're going to try this. They obviously are in all kind of different chemicals, so we're going to mix this. Now I will say that I had to go back into the garage and get a pair of channel locks because this top did not want to come off because this was designed as a spray bottle. So let's see how thick the gel actually is. It is pretty thick. It's like a syrupy consistency, and it's quite thick. I don't want to dilute it. I want it in its full strength just to see how well it works. And that way we can't say that it didn't work as well because it was diluted. So let's put our spring in there and we'll move on to our last item. Well, that's an interesting reaction. It turned a white color like it had just maybe air pockets or something like that. But it's very interesting how it changed to a whitish color once I put the rusty spring in. Now lastly, I'm using the muriatic acid. This is our number 14 product. And you're probably wondering, why am I not wearing gloves? Well, if you've ever had a YouTube channel, you'll understand you really need thick skin to be able to go through the comment section. So anyways, let's pour our bottle of muriatic acid. Gotta be careful, the lid fell in there, so that's what that little piece of plasticky white thing in there is. I don't think we're quite full, so let's go a little bit deeper there. I want it to be like a 50-50 result there going up the spring. I still don't think we're quite there. All right, just carefully put that in there. And wow, that's really one of the best reactions I've seen. Let me get a little closer there. Now, on the ones that are clear enough to see the bottom, I wanted to show you some of the rust that's actually just flaked off and fell to the bottom of the container. What you're looking at that right there is the CLR product, and you can see there's a lot of rust just settled to the bottom. So I'll just kind of go down the row here, and we'll have to skip a couple of them because they've become so clouded you can't see the bottom, like the OJ, the oil eater. But our next one will be 75% vinegar. Right there, it's 75% vinegar you're looking at, and there's definitely rust settling to the bottom. Next is lemon juice. It's so cloudy you can't see. The Evapo rust, or excuse me, the Evapo product that I seem to have forgotten. Yeah, I guess it is Evapo rust. There's no clear evidence of rust settling to the bottom. And again, that's the Evapo rust. I don't see any clear evidence of rust settling to the bottom. The Pepsi is not visible. Now, interestingly, let me show you the 5% vinegar. Now, right there, you're looking at 5% vinegar, and you can see a lot of rust has settled to the bottom. So that's pretty impressive on just the 5%. I'm really curious to see what happens with the 75% as compared to the 5%, but you can see rust is just flaking off and settling to the bottom. Now here you can see the citric acid, and it's doing the same thing. Small pieces of rust are just flaking off and settling to the bottom. You can't see the coat. The Rust-Oleum isn't showing anything, but I'll show you the WD-40. I don't really see a lot of results there, as expensive as it was. Now maybe overnight, maybe there will be a different result. Again, there's our WD-40. It's been in there for a shorter amount of time. Maybe it's just going to take a little bit longer to work, but I don't see amazing results as I do on some of the others. Now, the muriatic acid, obviously I just mixed, but I'm seeing a lot of chemical reaction happening there, so we may come back tomorrow and there may be quite a bit of rust. Hopefully none of these will come back and there's major damage to the spring, which means I'll have to cut the time down significantly to prevent any metal damage, but I don't think that will happen. So guys, for you, a few seconds will pass. For me, it'll be about 24 hours. We'll come back and we'll see what the results are. I'll neutralize the acid in each one of these in another compound, and we'll see how well it worked. I'm just hoping that one of these will really make a difference in my favorite bonsai scissors. They're pretty badly rusted, and there is a massive amount on there. It's just caked up. So hopefully it will work. One of these will do magic on this, and it will make a big difference, because this is the only one I had like this that was imported from Japan. Hey guys, so it's early the next morning, and I'm going to do a reveal on all 14 of the products we use to remove the rust from the springs, and we'll go one by one and we'll take a really close look at them. All right, so the first one we're going to test is CLR. I'm going to let some of the liquid drip off there, and as you can see, there's a very distinct line in where the liquid was at, and the old rusty spring looks like a brand new spring now. So it's amazing the difference in CLR. So it looks like CLR was a success. Now, second is the overnight soak oil eater. Let that drip off just for a sec. And I can still see a little bit of rust in there. It's not quite as clear as the first one. So I'm definitely seeing a little bit less positive results, but it is a much better looking spring. It's just not showing me the amazing results that CLR did. All right, so I read about this online, so I'm not really sure what the results are. So you and I are both going to be finding out this in just 1 second. Common Everyday Ordinary OJ, and I'm impressed. I didn't expect this result. As you can see, there's a little tiny spot of rust there, but OJ evidently has enough acid to clean rust off, and yeah, I'm kind of impressed. I did not expect this with OJ. Now next is our 75% vinegar, and the vinegar solution has turned a very rust colored. Let's take a close look here. That's pretty impressive. I'm not seeing any evidence of stain. Boy, the vinegar is quite strong in odor, so you want to make sure. Since I'm speaking into the microphone, it's hard for me to wear any kind of mask, but I would recommend a mask. But you can see this one is quite rusty. Some of the vinegar has worked its way up through kind of a wicking action there, but overall the part that was sitting in the solution looks brand new. I'm not seeing any evidence of rust on it. So I would say 75% vinegar is a success. Now next is our 100% lemon juice. I don't think it's a concentrate. I think it's just 100% lemon juice, and it says not from concentrate. So this is just your standard lemon juice. I've not been able to see anything below the surface level, so it's going to be a surprise to me as well. It looks pretty good. I'm seeing some evidence of just a little bit of rust, but it's like granular almost, so there's no major rust left on it. Pretty impressive. So even something as inexpensive as lemon juice, if you have lemon trees in your yard, you could do this absolutely free. All right, so this is the Evapor Rust. It's a little bit thicker, so we're going to let it drip off there. And wow, that really has a new appearance to it. Seeing a little bit of darkening around the bottom, but overall it looks very good. I think maybe 24 hours in this would be even better, but yeah, I would say this has worked quite well. Evapor Rust is a success as well, and that same wicking action has worked its way up, maybe from me moving it around a little bit, but could be a wicking action too. Okay, so now the Pepsi, and it's going to be a mystery to me as well because I can't see anything below the water surface line. I'll let that drip off, and there is just no evidence of any change. As you can see, it just looks like wet. It's like it wetted, almost like you had it in water overnight, but there's no change at all. So Pepsi is a complete failure. No positive results. I'll try to give you the best view of it to see that it just looks like the same rusty pattern, just this side from that's been sitting in the Pepsi is just wet rather than actually cleaned. All right, so this is the 5% kitchen vinegar. And I still see a lot of evidence of rust there. It's almost like it's still on there in different spots, about, maybe less than a millimeter in size, so really small, but it is nothing like the 75%. The 75% just looked like it had been power washed. So as you can see, that same wicking action has caused some of it to come up. But I'd say that 5% kitchen vinegar, if you really want a stellar result, you're not going to get it with the low acidity. You want the maximum acidity. And as I've said before, all of these products that I use that are a success, I will put them in the link in the description. Okay, so now we have the apple cider vinegar, and it probably has one of the most potent smells, and that's just natural. I'd mix this with soda water from time to time. Now this one's a little harder to see, but there's still a lot of rust on it. Some areas are cleaner than others, but it is definitely, let me see if I can swirl it around and get some of the bubbles off there. Some of the foaming kind of sticking to it, but still a lot of rust. So I would say that apple cider vinegar, it might work in 2 to 3 days if you left it in there and then hit it with a high pressure hose. But as far as just a simple overnight soak, it's not a success. Okay, next we have the citric acid. And yeah, that's pretty good. I'll try to swirl it around there so you can see. There's still some dark areas. It's not taking it, the rust is gone, but I noticed some of the others just had that light gray appearance. So citric acid will remove rust if you have that around the house in your kitchen. And see, on this side it's a lot darker. On this side it's a lot lighter. On this side it's a lot darker. So I think maybe 24 to even 48 hours in citric acid would work, and it's much more low toxicity than some of the other products. Now, as I said before, this was the most expensive of everything I purchased. And let's take a look. WD-40, 12-hour soak. And most of the rust is gone. I still see some small amount of rust, very small. So it worked, but it's not a stellar result for the price you pay. I would have expected to pull this out of here and just been like a new spring. Now, will it work in 24, 48 hours? I'm putting all of these back in the solutions, and I'm going to wait another 24, 48, and make a couple of YouTube shorts. So keep an eye out for those. If you're a subscriber, you'll get a notification. But I just want to see what will happen in 12 hours, 24, and then 48. Okay, guys, this is just plain old Coca-Cola, not diet. Nothing unusual about it, just your average everyday Coke. And as with the Pepsi, there's just no result. Even though I read that Coke could remove rust, and it looks like there may be a little spot here of rust that's been removed, but overall there's just no results. You'd be better off with something like your lemon juice if you wanted to use something out of the kitchen. So it's definitely not the result that I was hoping for with just common everyday Coca-Cola. Now this is the Rust-Oleum gel, and it is quite messy. It's actually, I had a straw-like action. It came out the top, went onto the counter, and actually dripped down on the greenhouse floor. So this one is so coated with this foamy stuff like this. I'm gonna have to take it outside, wash it off, so you can get a, it's kind of breaking my rule of not doing anything other than taking it out of the solution, but you can't see anything. So give me a sec, I'll wash this off and we'll take a better look at it. So I gave it a light rinse with a garden hose, not high pressure, just a very, very easy rinse. And you can see that it's pretty good. It's moved all the rust. It had that same wicking action that went up there, and this acted kind of as a straw. It came out the top, as I said earlier, so it's quite a mess on the counter, but it did work. It didn't take it to that light gray color, so that makes me think these springs may have been coated with something, and maybe the others were so acidic they actually removed the outer coating. So I'm going to put it back in. We'll give it another day and see how, if it does change the color on it even more. Okay guys, so this is the muriatic acid. And so that took it, wow, this one really looks new. It has very cleaned off all the rust, took off all the dark outer coating that we just talked about in the previous. So as I said, that could have been something sprayed on from the factory, but this looks brand new. So muriatic acid is one of the top ways to do it. A little bit more dangerous, needing gloves and of course all the other safety equipment, but eye protection in case there's a splashback. But that's really a good result right there. I'd say looks very similar to the vinegar results. So guys, there you have it, 14 easy soak methods. Now there are other methods to removing the rust that's more labor intensive, such as paste you can make. You could do sand blasting, you could try heat. But as far as me, I wanted to show you the easiest and the lowest cost method. And some of those are more expensive than others, but depending on what you have around your house or how big your project is, you can try a lot of different things. I think that you'll be amazed at the results. My next video, my next project is going to be trying to restore these bonsai scissors with what I think was the best one of those. So if you would subscribe, and you'll be able to see how these turn out and what the results are. Have a great day.